Hello everyone, in this video I'd like to share some thoughts on how to make this transition from learning, machine learning or deep learning, like trying to follow tutorials, try to make some small projects, to actually complete projects, like real world projects, because it's always a problem. And probably the most important thing that I want to say is that it does not depend on the domain. So if you pick up whatever other domain, but machine learning or deep learning, and ask yourself, like, what would be the difference between the tutorial level entry and the production level where you actually get paid for what you're doing, it's actually the same. So, just to give you a very quick background that I had, just in order to make sure that you do understand that I apply exactly the same patterns I've been working out in other domains. Now I apply those patterns to machine learning and deep learning. And before I did that, it was absolutely unclear for me how to move on actually. So I started around 6 years ago with web scraping, and most of my work looks like this. I just make real estate property scrapers for essentially. I've been making like 3 years for one client. Now I'm doing another 3 years for another client. And eventually, I even made a personal website for this guy, for my client. And it might seem complicated, but actually, this website is not much different. It's not very different from those particular web scrapers I've been doing. So my minimalist approach is the key. So the idea is try to start simple, start small, and then grow from there. And an interesting thing about this website, for instance, like in regards to the minimalism of the architecture, is that I did it. It doesn't have backend. Absolutely, I made eventually a custom JavaScript framework that mimics retrieval of the data from the backend, but the backend is actually the statically hosted files. So it's quite an interesting architectural choice, I would say. But it keeps everything really, really, really simple. So when it comes to web scraping or web development, it's crystal clear for me how to apply minimalism, how that works, and it's not a problem at all. But when I started with deep learning, I was really overwhelmed because the problem was, like, first of all, the scaling. So if you try to build something real, it would be so big that you would never have enough processing power to complete that. And if this is something small, like a tutorial, like a MNIST image recognition, or something even smaller, like for instance the XOR net, an entry level thing that I started with. I even made a video on this, so using the PyTorch and using the NumPy, considering the manual backpropagation as an exercise. Yeah, all this is cool, but this is really far from the real world projects. So the key point for me was exactly applying my minimalist approach to machine learning. So I did recall the goal that I had in mind since 2015, I would say. And I was dreaming to create my very own bare minimum neural net to play the plausible game of Go. So if you consider something like Catago, which is the cutting edge modern neural net, and the engine powered by the neural net to play like superhuman level of Go, it's not possible to train it at home. It takes like ages to complete. But if we take something smaller, then it's definitely possible. So I did manage to apply all those skills and all those knowledge I gained by learning deep learning, and I came up with this project. So starting with downloading the data. So I just downloaded Go games from badukmovies.com, pro games, around 70,000 of games there. But I didn't need that much because the smaller model we have, the uh, less data needs to fit in. So the model capacity is increasing and hence it needs more data. But if the model capacity is not really that big, I don't need that much of data. So I started with the 7-layer convolutional neural net plus the fully connected output layer. Currently, I'm already trying the deeper architecture with the 19 convolutional layers, but eventually I started with this one. And by the way, if you're interested in particular results like how it plays the game of Go, I have a video on my chess programming channel, and there will be a link in the description down below this one so that you can see how exactly this thing works practically, because I'm not going to be showing it in this video. So again, convolutional nets, just like for the image recognition when the spatial data matters. So for instance, there are some patterns on the Go board, like ladders or nets, or the stone is in a area, group is in a area. What do you need to do? Trying to take the corners, take the sides, develop in big modules. So all those kind of things. So convolutional, two-dimensional neural nets, like neural net layers, are exactly the weapon of choice in that particular case. And again, when I got this understanding, like what is the convolutional net in particular, why do we want to have residual connections, or when we can drop them, etc., etc. So all this had a lot of theory. It gets crystal clear, like how particularly you want to organize things. And even if you're now writing code on your own, even if you're using ChatGPT, without the understanding, you would never give ChatGPT a proper request. And if you just ask it to do it on his way, it would just start suggesting well-known stuff, which is not really helpful. So eventually, I spent around 4 hours of training on this CPU. So Intel Core i5, I need to delete this, 10 400s, and yeah, so 4 hours, and it reached around 17Q level. It's not that much, but it plays much stronger in the opening, and the reason why the overall strength is so low is because it's very weak regarding tactics, and that's the reason why I already started training the deeper net with 19 layers in particular. And by the way, the training process is currently running on my another machine of mine, and this is much slower. So I need to add lots of things like resuming from training from the checkpoint, and also when it comes to preparing the data, I needed to do that in batches because I was running out of memory completely. Here I barely fit the overall random access memory I have on this machine, like 16 gigabytes. Interestingly, that exactly my minimalist approach that did allow me to divide and conquer seemingly impossible to divide and conquer task of training neural nets to play the game of Go. It turned out that it's totally possible to scale things down significantly, and when you get the actual results, it really motivates you to keep going. And with this minimal setup, this already feels like a complete project. It's not just XOR or Minis or whatever other tutorial. I would say that without my minimalist approach, I would never achieve anything in the real world tasks. And again, just going back to this website, no one does websites the way I did this one. And still it exists, and I got paid well for this website. And this was possible exactly thankfully to my minimalist approach that first I showed in the web scraping, then in this web development. Now, when it comes to deep learning, I believe this is going to be exactly the same thing because I can simply scale things down and provide those minimalist solutions where I feel absolutely confident and from where I can grow further on.